In section 5, we're looking at different quadrilaterals and what we actually need to prove that we have one of those shapes. We're going to start out with parallelogram. There's a lot of things that we can do with a parallelogram, a lot of different ways that we can prove that we have one. First one, most straightforward, is having opposite pairs of parallel sides. So whenever we know that the opposite sides are parallel, we know that we will get a parallelogram. So this tells us we get a parallelogram, and we'll fill that bigger picture in a moment. Another way that you can guarantee you have a parallelogram is when the opposite sides are all the same length. So when the two sides opposite each other, basically like a rectangle, but someone could have sat on it and changed your angles, guarantees that you have a parallelogram. Kind of combining the two, if you have a pair of sides that is congruent and parallel, that will be enough to prove that you have a parallelogram. Now, that is different than saying, let's say we had one side parallel and another side that is congruent length, equal length. That would not be enough. So don't write that down. Don't get confused by the fact that you could have opposite sides congruent, the other pair parallel. You could have had actually an isosceles trapezoid in that case, so that's why that would not work. Another way that you could get a parallelogram and guarantee that you have a parallelogram is by looking at the diagonals. And if the diagonals bisect each other, they cut each other in half, that is enough to guarantee that you have a parallelogram. Parallelograms will always have their diagonals cut each other in half. And then the last one is looking at opposite angles. So if the corner angles are both equal to each other and the other corner angles are both equal to each other, that will guarantee that you have a parallelogram. So the idea is that any one of these five pieces of information, if you have any one of these five parallelograms where you have the information that I have listed, you get the full suite of everything that is true about a parallelogram, including opposite sets of parallel sides, opposite sets of congruent sides. You get that the opposite angles are equal to one another. You get that the diagonals bisect each other. So that comes in for free. And every other property that you would get with a parallelogram, you get as long as you have any one of these five things over here. So if you have any one of these five sets, you get the whole parallelogram.